So many of you were covering AEW at the very beginning when we announced we're launching a wrestling company. Now here it is. It's 6 years later, and this week we're celebrating the 6-year anniversary of Wednesday Night Dynamite.
Coming up on Going Ringside, the man who started one of the biggest wrestling promotions in the world right here in Jacksonville, as AEW returns to the River City for 2 major shows happening right now. One of the most popular female wrestlers in the world also joins us. Thunder Rosa is here discussing the massive crossover between U.S. and Mexican promotions. Also, he's been called the next Brock Lesnar. Parker Boudreaux is here discussing getting out of the stereotype and building his own path.
Influencing pop culture, politics, and everything in between, taking you ringside as we discuss the crazy world that is professional wrestling. This is Going Ringside.
Good evening. Welcome to Going Ringside here on the CW. I'm your host, Scott Johnson. So glad you could be with us tonight. We're talking to that man, the man who started one of the top 2 wrestling promotions in the world right here where we're at in Jacksonville, literally right next door over at the stadium where the Jaguars plays. You know, Tony Khan, his father Shad Khan, owns the Jacksonville Jaguars. And in 2019, he decided he was going to change the game. He brought in some of the biggest stars there were, from Chris Jericho to the Young Bucks, Cody Rhodes at the time, and started this wrestling company in Jacksonville, which is returning home right now. They're over at the stadium right now shooting Dynamite. Tomorrow is Collision. So wanted to bring on Tony to talk about how did you start this monumental thing up right here in Jacksonville. Here's AEW owner Tony Khan. Well, we're excited to be joined now by AEW owner and obviously a guy close to the Jaguars, Tony Khan. Tony, thank you for joining us on the show today.
Great to see you, Scott. Thanks for having me on.
Well, we're excited because AEW's homecoming is happening. You guys are coming back to Daly's Place October 7th and 8th. Big homecoming for you guys. I'm sure it's nice to come back home.
It's going to be great. I cannot wait for AEW homecoming. We've got 2 shows in Daly's Place here in Jacksonville, which is so awesome because here in Jacksonville is where we launched AEW. So many of you were covering AEW at the very beginning when we announced we're launching a wrestling company. Now here it is. It's 6 years later, and this week we're celebrating the 6-year anniversary of Wednesday Night Dynamite. So I can't think of a better way to celebrate the homecoming than the very next week to come back and celebrate a homecoming where we spent so many of those times, so many of those great AEW shows, the place that's hosted more AEW events, big events, TV shows, pay-per-views than any other arena in the world.
I do want to, you brought up the origin, which always fascinated me. I knew you were a fan years and years ago. You knew guys like the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. But I always wondered, beyond the knowing the wrestlers, how did the logistics happen to get this, licensed in the state of Florida as a business, talking to your dad, getting a network deal? I always wondered how the origin went from an idea to this massive global reality.
Well, I didn't know those wrestlers, and I didn't have that kind of connection to start this. When I launched it, I was in LA. I was at a cocktail party, and I saw the president at the time of TBS and TNT, and I knew him. And I went up to him and said, with the way wrestling TV rights are going, I think it would make a lot of sense for us to start a wrestling league. And I would put the shows on TBS and TNT. At the time, there was no wrestling on TBS or TNT, but there had been for many years. There's a great history of wrestling from about 1971 to 2001 on TBS, and from the mid-90s, about 95 to 2001 on TNT. But neither network had hosted any wrestling for almost 20 years when we started. And it was 2018 when I went to the president of TBS and TNT and said, let's look at this. And he took it seriously. We had a lot of meetings. It was over a year before anything really happened, but it was a lot of meetings. And I started to realize there's definitely a market for this. I began signing up the wrestlers. It was a major commitment. And it actually was a bit of a gamble because I started signing the wrestlers before I had the TV deal because I could feel the TV deal was coming and that there was a market for what AEW was going to do. So in January of 2019, we announced the launch of AEW. We announced that we'd signed a bunch of star wrestlers. It was January 8th, like literally meters, like feet away from where I am right now in Jacksonville, right outside of my office, where it was actually the first ever AEW press conference. We announced the launch of the promotion. We had a party with the fans, and we had a great celebration. We set off pyro in the parking lot, and we launched AEW and put eyes of the wrestling world here in Jacksonville.
So I was at that press conference covering it as a journalist. You know, I do that on the other channel. And it was fascinating to see. They did it the same night WWE was across the street at the arena. We realized there's a new player on the market. Tony Khan was brand new to the wrestling world. People didn't really know who he was. Who's this son of the Jacksonville Jaguars owner shaking up the entire culture of pro wrestling by bringing in these megastars? Kind of the center of it at the time was really Chris Jericho, and then he had all these other big stars at the same time. So Tony Khan comes in, starts this out of nowhere, set the wrestling world on fire, and it's remained that way ever since for the past 6 years. So let's talk about with Tony. We're not done. Coming up, we'll have more with Tony on the major event that fundamentally changed his wrestling company, how Jacksonville played a huge role. Plus, AEW veteran Thunder Rosa is here on her impressive career, coming up next. Welcome back. I want to talk about something massive that happened in 2020-ish to AEW. Remember that? The pandemic started 2020, 2021. Everything shuts down. NFL, NBA, WWE stops having fans. AEW's left here as a brand new company. What do? They stopped going to Chicago and New York and California. They stayed in Jacksonville on national television every single week on TNT, bringing the show nationally from Daly's Place for about a year and a half. When all these other sports shut down, AEW was the only sport in the world, or at least in the United States, with fans for a live event. So I wanted to ask Tony, what happened when COVID hit? I want to ask about something else that's kind of Jacksonville-centric that happened to you, like a punch in the mouth. A year into this, the pandemic affects everyone. And AEW, if our viewers didn't know, became home in Jacksonville every night at Daly's Place for, I think, more than a year. Yeah. What was it like for you from a managerial end when you realized we can't travel? I mean, Florida was kind of a good state to be in for this. What was that dynamic like? How did you handle that?
Well, we made lemonade out of lemons. We had originally been scheduled to have an event March 18th of 2020 in New York. And given the way things were going, I canceled that event and then moved it to Jacksonville and then moved all the events for the foreseeable future to Jacksonville. And we, as you said, Scott, we did shows for over a year, almost a year and a half, just in Jacksonville.
Were you the only, I mean, if I remember right, you were the only sports television in existence really for a long time. Everything else was shut down.
Yeah, all there was wrestling for a few weeks. There was AEW and WWE. For AEW, we were the only league that actually brought the fans back. There were months where we were the only wrestling show on TV that had fans in the stands. And we did it safely. We brought the fans back to the outdoor amphitheater. And then we did the same thing for the Jags. And if you look back, AEW was the first wrestling league to put fans in the seats. And the Jags were the first team to bring the fans back. NFL week 1, there were only 2 teams that had fans in the stands week 1 of NFL 2020. And it was the Jags and the Chiefs.
AEW owner Tony Khan, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you for having me on.
Couple things. Our full interview with Tony, because we talked about a lot more, is available right now at our YouTube channel exclusively, youtube.com/@GoingRingside. Make sure you go there and click subscribe. Funny story on AEW being here is, you know, I work in the news department at Channel 4. A bunch of news people are like, what's this weird stuff going on at the stadium? I'm like, it's wrestling. Trust me. There tends to be chaos when wrestling is in town. One of their stars throughout it all has been Thunder Rosa, top of their female division. I caught up with Thunder Rosa recently at River City Wrestling Con to chat with her about her interesting career and a lot of the crossover you're seeing now between American and Mexican wrestling companies. Well, we're excited to be joined by one of the more popular women wrestlers on the planet Earth. We're talking about Thunder Rosa right now. Thunder Rosa, thank you for joining us on the show today.
Well, thanks for having me.
What is going on in your world right now? You are a busy woman and a very active wrestler.
Yes, I am. There's a lot of stuff going on. Right now we're focusing on the show that is going to happen in Mexico and CMLL. It's Grand Slam. We're going to Grand Slam in Arena Mexico. I'm going to be part of it, but Ring of Honor War Wars, that's what I'm doing. I have a tag partner for Stephanie, so that's what I'm doing right now in the next 2 weeks.
There has been massive crossover in the industry between U.S. and Mexican wrestling organizations.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
I love it. It's a lot of opportunities for a lot of the people, a lot of us that have been working tremendously hard to make a name for ourselves in the American market, and now it's there. AEW has done a tremendous job on having a lot of lucha libre talent, and it's now showing because everybody's doing it now.
I've got to ask you about AEW because they are a literal next door neighbor to my TV station. What's it been like being there all these years? I mean, it was a company kind of started from nothing,
yes,
and now just going off all these years later.
I mean, right now it's been pretty awesome because we've been able to go to so many different markets: Australia, London. They went to Japan. We're going to Mexico, and we're just expanding. And I think it's good for everyone. It's good for the wrestling business that this is happening.
Always wanted to know, and I've never actually heard it explained, your face paint. What's the background? What's the origin?
You will have to go on my YouTube and watch it because I have a full-on story in this.
Really? Okay.
Oh my God, yes.
So if we go to search you on YouTube,
you'll find it. You can go and read why, but it's like layers and layers and layers on this one.
Best women's wrestlers that you've worked with.
I miss Toni Storm. I love working with her. I love Chris Statlander. Man, there's so many.
We had Toni on the show.
Yes.
She came in our TV station. From door to door, she was timeless the entire time.
No,
Off camera, on camera, didn't matter.
She's always timeless. Always.
Yeah.
Even when she's resting and she doesn't have the dress, or she's timeless.
Is it a little jarring to be next to that all the time?
I love it.
Really?
Yeah, because my crazy side can come out too.
How are you physically doing? You work as hard as anyone in the world.
I am. This is the healthiest that I've been in my life.
Really?
Yes.
Just exercise or activity or no injuries?
No injuries, thank God. It's just like once I got injured, I realized that it's more important sometimes to take a step back and really take care of yourself than to try to bust your ass on every show that you can. I mean, we're working really hard to keep our spot and open other platforms for other women that are coming after me. But I've been taking care of myself super crazy. I'm not trying to kill myself anymore. And it's just finding that balance.
What do you mean by that?
Kill myself, working 6 matches a week is finding a balance,
Was it? I mean, was that early in your career? Were you doing stuff like that?
I was pretty jacked up. Yes.
Yes.
Before I became a champion, I think I was hurt already.
Really?
So when I was a champion, it was just yeah. I was just sorry, you're not gonna do it anymore. And I was like, oh.
Thanks, Thunder Rosa.
Thank you.
She's just a tremendous. Go look on YouTube, anything Thunder Rosa has ever did. She's just an amazing, amazing competitor. And the women's division at AEW has been stellar, top-notch, pretty much the entire time she's been there, from Britt Baker to Toni Storm, who we're going to have on in coming weeks. We'll get to that later on, but I love the AEW women's division. But we got to turn out of AEW because coming up, he's one of the most intimidating wrestlers on earth, and he just moved to Jacksonville. How Parker Boudreaux is trying to find his own path following constant comparisons to, get this, Brock Lesnar. Welcome back. If you get online for wrestling nowadays, you will see a lot of stuff on social of this jacked, almost inhuman looking like machine named Parker Boudreaux. He's doing a lot in Japan right now, as you can see right here. He was recently in WWE, did a stint in AEW, and now, because he came out of college, and he's going to describe in just a minute, he hadn't really figured out wrestling. Now he's gone to Japan, and he's learning to be a top-notch pro. Many people compare him to Brock Lesnar. The main guy to do that, Paul Heyman. But does he really want to be the next Brock Lesnar? I asked him about that because, coincidentally, he a few weeks ago told me, hey, I just moved to Jacksonville. I'm like, well, then we need to get you in studio ASAP. So the man who some say is the next Brock Lesnar, we want to hear his take. Here is Parker Boudreaux. Well, get ready to be intimidated because Parker Boudreaux is here, the most maybe intimidating man on the planet. Parker, thank you for joining us. I got to start. You just moved to our area in Jacksonville.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here, man. It's a great town and an amazing city, and I love the people here, man.
Well, let's talk about your journey and a story you were saying that not a lot of people have heard. Paul Heyman is the guy who discovered you.
Very, very blessed to have Paul Heyman, Jim Ross, and Jared Briscoe bring me in the pro wrestling business. And to have those three people, it means the world, man. These people are absolute legends in this world.
So talk to me about how you met Paulie the first time.
Man, Paul Heyman, the first time, it was an interesting time, man. The first time in person was in Orlando. A couple years after, UCF, and I think it was in my senior year of UCF football. We met up in Orlando and we talked for about 4 to 5 hours, and that was really like an eye-opening, inspiring conversation with him because he really broke it down to me how pro wrestling is behind the scenes and how it truly works. I was coming from football, a whole different world. So for him to break it down and really to tell me that I could be possibly one of the most elite future pro wrestlers, it was inspiring, and so that's why I've been doing the work I've been doing.
So I got to talk about the thing that's just been hung on you for like a decade now, comparisons to Brock Lesnar. I think even Paulie says you're like the next big thing, which is the phrase he used for Brock Lesnar. Talk to me about that.
I've been getting him for about 12 years now, so it is a blessing and a curse. I always tell people this because Brock Lesnar is the greatest athlete of all time, and probably the best pro wrestler of all time as well. So for him, to get comparisons to the greatest athlete of all time, it's a blessing, But also, I'm the first and only Parker Boudreaux. I'm not trying to be Brock Lesnar or the next Brock Lesnar. I understand that he's his own beast. I'm my own beast. We're completely different people, but I do see the similarities. And like I said before, I'm thankful. It's been going on since about 15 years old. So, and when I was really young at 15, it was super cool, But now, I'm my own person, and I am the one and only Parker Boudreaux.
So you've been in WWE, you've been in AEW, now you're international, you're in Japan, you're doing a lot in Mexico. I want to talk about career future. Who are people you think Parker Boudreaux should be in the ring with?
Any company or?
Any company. You name the star.
Well, we'll go for WWE. I came up with a couple people in the PC, and that was Braun Breaker was one really cool guy that me and him connected really well.
Let's talk. So Braun has been discussed as possible world champion, possible face of the company. You guys would have just an absolute banger.
Oh, historic. I think it would be, I think a banger would be an understatement. Me and Braun would have a historic match. Our chemistry right when we met each other was elite. So, obviously he's in the WWE. I'm not in the WWE right now, but, the way that I'm working right now is anything's possible.
And I want to ask you, so you told me when you went to WWE, you barely knew what you were doing. Much different today because of working in Japan and working international.
I needed the extra work, man. I needed to go international and, sacrifice and go on the tours in Japan and really make this dedication to pro wrestling and show my passion that I've always had for it because, You know, a lot of people don't want to go out to Japan and stay there for 5 to 6 weeks, training every single day in the dojo for 6 to 8 hours a day, brutally beating up your body where you can barely walk at the end of the day and, you know, stand up straight. So I think a lot of people will give up, but that's the thing. This is my life. I live, breathe pro wrestling, and this is what I'm going to do.
One of the guys that you credit now that you can talk on camera better is Jeff Jarrett.
Jeff Jarrett, an absolute legend, man. Me and him paired up in Mexico was an honor because looking back at it, he helped me tremendously with promo work. He just the passion he has for this business, it radiates. You know what I mean? It inspires you, and you know, to do multiple tours with him in Mexico, I've learned so much, and grateful to have a relationship still with him to this day.
You did AEW and WWE. Can you compare the two?
Both of them were amazing to me. That's where I could kind of compare it.
I want to get your opinion because we just had him on the show before you. Tony Khan, what was he like as a boss?
Oh, amazing. And I tell people this, he's one of the coolest people I've met so far in the pro wrestling business. He keeps it real. He treats you with respect, and to have that as a boss, that's what you need. Respect, discipline, and he's the dude for that. And I hope to work with him again in the future because he's the man.
Well, Parker Boudreaux, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
So glad Parker could, join us, and I'm inviting him back when he gets back from his international tour. We're going to see, he named Braun Breaker as a dream opponent. I can only imagine that would just be an amazing match to see, and he says he's learning it all now working in Japan, learning to work stiff, as I think they call it. Well, in just a minute, we'll be back with more here on Going Ringside. Welcome back. Big thanks before we go to Tony Khan and, of course, Thunder Rosa. AEW is literally right this minute across the river shooting Dynamite. But tomorrow, you can go as well. They're shooting Collision at Daly's Place. Tickets are available. You can go right now and check out the live show. Thanks to Parker Boudreaux. Definitely one to watch. And before we go, I want to talk to you about our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@GoingRingside. Make sure you click that subscribe button. We need your support. We need to keep building our subscriber base so we can keep bringing you the stars. NXT is next.